What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, this is the place where we break down Caribbean and African politics with truth and clarity. Today's video is about Barbados and Prime Minister Mia Amor Mottley, who just delivered a speech that's turning heads, not only in Caribbean but globally. This was not a campaign speech full of noise. This was a warning, a reality check, and a call for resilience. So let's get into it.
Demand serious people. And I would like to believe that we have a team for the times. I would like to believe that we have the combination of personnel, all very different, but working in singular purpose for the people of Barbados. We have people with years of experience and tested judgment. And we have people with youth and passion and energy ready to bolt and run round the island enough times, with a bright future ahead of them. And me, I didn't expect to be here to speak to you again for a new term. But after the by-election last year, and after recognizing what was happening globally, in our time, it seemed as though when you turn your head right, there was a crisis. And when you turn your head left, there was a crisis. Hit after hit after hit after hit. Freak storm, ash fall, Hurricane Elsa, Hurricane Beryl, COVID, and COVID, and COVID. 2.5 years. And that's why, Santi, when people talk about roads, tell me what work was being done for 2.5 years on building roads when the country was shut down. People must not take politeness for foolishness. And the time has come for us to remember that on top of these difficult times have come now geopolitics and cost of living, and God forbid, war. We never thought we would see war in Europe again in our lifetime, but we did. We didn't think that Africa was still in the phase of coup d'etat, but now there have been so many in the last few years, driven by instability, driven by a climate crisis. And we certainly never thought that the Caribbean would cease to be in a zone of peace. Not because we don't have crime, but because we didn't have military conflict and pirates. Because for many centuries, the Caribbean was a theater of war and conquest and dominion. And little did I know that on January 3rd, barely half dozen, I would get a call at 3 o'clock in the morning from President Ali, my brother, Irfan. He says, it has started. Turn to Al Jazeera. And with that, there was no further sleep. And the heads of government of the Caribbean community met at 5:30 that morning. And little did Barbados, on waking up that morning, realize that we would be at the front line of displacement in Goodinedgel because of the excellent work that you have done bringing airlift to this country, bringing back Delta, bringing back United, doubling and trebling American. And with that came the cessation of flights and the cancellation on that day. Barbados was the largest tourism hub closest to Venezuela, and therefore the one most affected. And it wasn't only the North American flights, it was also the ones from Europe bringing cruise ship passengers, because we are the third largest home port in the Americas. I say to you that I never expected that we would be that close And if I think we have turned the corner, we see what has happened this week. And Kerry, we will engage as we always do with dignity and with clarity as to our interests and principles. And this morning, Ian, in spite of other démarches this week, or in addition, I should say, you sent me another notam showing that the Northern Caribbean and Central America are now being warned to be able to take notice with any flights going through those areas, because there is likely still to be instability in this Caribbean region. My friends, if ever there was a time for resilience, it is now. And Ralph Thorne could only say, oh, that's a buzzword in government. You remember? Yeah. He in Parliament, buzzword. But for Ralph, Parliament is about theatrics. Parliament is about wild performance. Parliament is about arrogance. Parliament is about mockery. Parliament is even about trying to starve people. But as you heard from Kirk, when he tell you about starving people, the first body to the plates for lunch every week is Ralph Thorne. And I go further. When I asked him to come and meet with the education officials, and we planned it, 2 weeks ahead of time. And I said, I'm going to bring the chief education officer, I'm going to bring the permanent secretary, bring all of them, and we can have the presentations and lunch in the dining room, the private dining room of Parliament. I come downstairs, gone in the dining room. I see the chief, I see the PS, I see the minister, I see the minister of state. Sandra, you were there? You remember? I said, where Ralph? I say, yeah. I said, but Ralph's supposed to be coming with Felicia Dujon and Maxine and others. I said, oh, they're down there at the bottom in the dining room eating food. And I went to them. I said, Ralph, we got all the people here. You agree that you're going to come and take this presentation? Well, foolish me, that was strike 3, because strike 1, William, is when he left us. Strike 2 was the thing with the crime. Strike 3 is the education. Ralph said, we can't make that no more. So, I know what it is for him. But let me tell you this, that we will not be distracted. Because what I have just listed out to you as our challenges, both externally and domestically, are real. But it has not stopped this government delivering for Bajans. We're not perfect. But we continue, and Barbados is a work in progress. In the north, in the south, in the east, in the west, you now see groundbreaking all over the place. And works in the public and the private sector. People, yes, complain about roads. But hundreds of kilometers, Santi, have been done already. Started with you, William, and continuing. Poor Ian, you had some, but because you bridging the COVID period, you couldn't do much. But because we did hundreds, we know that there are hundreds more to do. So when I say to you, my friends, it is time to keep building. It is time to recognize that Barbados cannot gamble with its future. It is time to recognize that Barbados cannot be reckless with stability. It is time to recognize that others globally have recognized the confidence and have treated this country differently in the last 7.5 years. Being recognized and getting prizes for the work that we have been doing in so many sectors. Now is not the time to change course. Now is the time to stay safe with the Barbados Labour Party. Now is the time for us to become Bajan strong. You know what Bajan strong is? Bajan strong is what has gotten us through these difficult times. It isn't only Mia Mottley and the Barbados Labour Party. It is Barbados coming together as one Bajan strong.
Listen carefully to how she starts. She says, "These times demand serious people." That immediately tells you this is not about vibes, popularity, or social media politics. She is saying leadership right now requires maturity, judgment, and discipline. And I like how she mentions different personalities working towards one purpose. That subtle message to anyone expecting uniformity or blind loyalty. Effective teams don't all look or sound the same. Now she balances experience with youth. That's important. Some leaders only trust elders. Others only want young energy. She is saying you need both tested judgment and fresh drive. That's how nations last. This part is very human. She admits she didn't expect to be speaking again for a new term. That tells you this wasn't some long-term power grab. Circumstances changed. And when she mentions the by-election and what was happening globally, you can feel the weight. Crisis was forcing decisions. This section is powerful. Pandemic, ashfall, hurricanes, shutdowns. This is the reality small island states face. When disaster hits, it doesn't hit once. It hits back to back. And critics often talk as if governments operate in a vacuum. They don't. When she addresses road complaints, she is being very direct. You cannot expect full-scale development while borders are closed and the economy is frozen. That's not excuses. That's facts. The line deserves respect. She is calm, measured, but she is drawing a line. Being respectful does not mean being weak. That's not leadership. Now she zooms out. War in Europe, COPs in Africa, rising cost, climate stress. This is important because many citizens don't realize how global shocks hit small economies fast. Barbados doesn't control wars, oil prices, or shipping routes, but it feels the impact immediately. This part is chilling. The Caribbean has long been seen as a zone of peace. No military conflicts, no privacy. Now that stability is being tested, and that should concern every Caribbean nation, not just Barbados. Imagine getting a call at 3 a.m. telling you regional conflict has begun. That's not politics. That's responsibility in real time. And suddenly flights are cancelled, tourism is affected, and Barbados is on the front line. That's the burden of geography. This is a detail many people overlook. When airspace warnings go out, investors, airline, and cruise companies get nervous. That directly affects jobs and income. This is why stability matters. She pushes back against mockery. Resilience isn't a slogan when you are managing crisis after crisis. It's survival. And she calls out political theatrics, noise without substance. This section is heated but controlled. She is saying, while some people are focused on drama, the government is focused to work. That contrast is deliberate. I appreciate this honestly. She doesn't claim perfection. She says Barbados is a work in progress. North, south, east, West. That's realism. Development doesn't happen overnight. This is the heart of the speech. Barbados cannot gamble with its future. Barbados cannot be reckless with stability. Now is not the time to change course. This is a warning to voters, but also a reminder of what's at stake. She points out something important. Barbados is being treated differently internationally now. Recognition doesn't come by accident. It comes from consistent leadership. This is where emotion comes in. Bajan Strong isn't about a party. It's about people pulling together during storms. That message resonates far beyond Barbados. This speech explains why Mia Mottley is respected globally. She speaks plainly. She doesn't hide reality, and she understands the world small nations are navigating. It is also a message to African leaders and Caribbean leaders. Truth builds trust. Stability protects people. Courage defines leadership. If you got value from this reaction, like the video, subscribe and share it. Drop your thoughts below. Do you agree that now is not the time for recklessness? Stay informed. Stay strong.